Boeing has begun a production of the first F-47 sixth-generation stealth fighter for the U.S.
After years of secrecy and billions of dollars in doubt, the United States is finally set to unveil its sixth-generation fighter, the F-47 NGA. Sleek, stealthy, and built to command a fleet of robotic wingmen, this jet is meant to change how wars are fought from the sky. Critics asked whether a lone, expensive plane could beat missiles, drones, and cyber threats. Supporters say it's the node that ties sensors and weapons together. Now, with new Chinese prototypes rising on the horizon, that debate became urgent. This video unpacks what the F-47 really is and why the world is watching closely. The threat from the East. If you've been watching military news the last few years, one thing becomes clear. China isn't standing still. It moved from copying old ideas to building its own modern air force, fast. The Chengdu J-20 showed the world China could field a true stealth fighter. The Shenyang J-31 has been talked about as an export-capable stealth type. Those jets alone changed the conversation about regional air power. Then, in late December 2024, something new appeared in blurry images and short video clips online. Two tailless, stealthy-looking aircraft flying over Chengdu. The photos were fuzzy, the details sketchy, but the shape was striking. No vertical tails, wide wings, and a look that didn't fit China's older designs. Analysts and hobbyists lit up social media trying to parse what they were seeing. Experts cautioned that images can mislead, but the sightings were enough to make the West pay attention. Out of that chatter came a name that stuck in analyst write-ups and forum threads: the J-36. Nobody from Beijing confirmed it, but several outlets have tried to gather what little open-source evidence exists and lay out a likely picture. The rumor picture of the J-36 is bold. A large, tailless delta diamond wing, wide fuselage, and, according to some readings, a triple-engine layout. The design choices point at two things: stealth and long reach. A tailless shape reduces radar reflections. Large internal bays suggest big missile or fuel loads, and multiple engines hint at high speed or heavy payloads. These are the traits you'd expect if someone wanted a long-range air superiority or strike machine. People have also been poring over the little details. Some reports note prominent leading-edge extensions blending into the nose and lots of small control surfaces along the trailing edge. Design moves that can help a tailless aircraft stay agile even without vertical fins. Other notes point to huge nose volume that could hold a very large radar or other sensors. Bottom line, if the J-36, or whatever it's called, matches even part of the speculation, it would be a serious step up from earlier Chinese types. China isn't just building big-manned jets. It's also building loyal wingmen, unmanned fighters meant to fly alongside crewed jets and do the dirty, dangerous work. Think of them as cheaper, expendable partners that extend reach, carry extra weapons, scout ahead, or jam enemy radars. That idea mirrors what the U.S. is doing with the Next Generation Air Dominance, NGAD, and its Collaborative Combat Aircraft, CCAS, manned leaders backed by robotic teammates. In short, both sides are betting not on a lone hero plane, but on a team of platforms that work together. All of this fueled real fear among U.S. analysts. The worry wasn't just they built a neat plane. It was that China could combine new fighters, loyal wingmen, long-range missiles, and heavier air defenses into a package that limits U.S. freedom of action in the Pacific. If the U.S. hesitated or trimmed back advanced programs while China pushed forward, the strategic balance in critical regions could shift. That fear was one big reason U.S. planners argued NGAD mattered. It was seen as a way to stay a step ahead, or at least prevent being outmatched. So here's how to think about China in this story. Not just an opponent building planes, but a catalyst. China's visible pace of upgrades forced questions in Washington and at the Pentagon. Keep spending on next-gen crewed fighters, or pivot to other tools? Billions on the line. Talk about NGAD and money, and the numbers hit like a gut punch. The Air Force's budget plans and public filings point to roughly $20 billion in research and development spending for NGAD through the end of the decade. That's the kind of money that can fund whole programs, not just prototypes. Then there's the per-plane math that made everyone wince. Independent estimates and government analysts have suggested an NGAD airframe could run roughly $300 million each. Put bluntly, that's about 3 times the price of a new F-35, and in the same ballpark as some very expensive legacy jets when all costs are counted. It's the sort of price tag that forces hard choices: buy fewer high-end planes or more lower-cost ones. To make the trade-offs clearer, compare a few headline numbers. The F-35A now runs on average in the tens of millions per plane to buy. while the B-21 Raider bomber's target per aircraft procurement cost sits in the hundreds of millions, roughly $700 million per bomber in recent estimates. Those comparisons aren't meant to gaslight anyone. They're the real-world context that makes NGAD's sticker shock meaningful. That sticker shock sparked a long, loud debate. Inside the Pentagon and on Capitol Hill, the question was simple and brutal. Should the U.S. sink tens of billions into a single, ultra-expensive fighter when the character of war is changing so fast? Drones are cheaper, can be produced in large numbers, and can swarm. Long-range missiles and stealthy bombers can strike from far away without risking pilots. Cyber operations and space assets reshape battlefields in ways a single jet might not fix. Critics asked whether NGAD was a future-proof investment or an expensive bet on yesterday's idea of air power. The discussion got real in 2024. Leadership paused NGAD for a deep look after cost estimates climbed, and the program appeared at risk of becoming unaffordable at scale. That pause was not a routine paperwork shuffle. It was a full stop to ask whether the program still made sense given budget realities and shifting military tech. The pause created serious tension. Cancel it and risk falling behind. Press on and risk bleeding the budget dry for a smaller force. That tension fed headlines and political heat. Contractors warned about sunk costs and complex supply chains. Lawmakers demanded answers. Analysts ran war games and cost models. Some argued for buying more existing aircraft or investing heavily in cheaper unmanned systems. Others pushed back. A sixth-generation leader could reshape the fight and protect allies in high-end wars where cheaper toys might not survive. Bottom line, NGAD's price tag turned the program into a choice about strategy, not just procurement. This wasn't a debate about which jet looks cooler. It was a debate about how the U.S. wants to spend its defense dollars and what kind of air force it intends to bring to the fights of the 20s. The risk of cancellation wasn't just chatter, it was a real fork in the road. Revealed at last, the sixth-generation F-47 NGA fighter. Many details of the F-47's design remain classified, but in March 2025, General Alvin offered a rare peek at what the jet might become. He promised significantly longer range, more advanced stealth, more sustainable, more supportable, and higher availability than our fifth-generation fighters, naming the F-22 and F-35 as the yardsticks. With the F-47, the U.S. is not just building another fighter but shaping the future of warfare and putting our enemies on notice, General Alvin said. The tone was unmistakable. This is meant to be a generational leap, not an incremental update. That sort of rhetoric does two jobs. First, it sells a vision to lawmakers, industrial partners, and the public, the kind of language that helps secure funding and political backing. Second, it signals intent to potential rivals, who will read every phrase and study every released image for hidden meaning. Analysts and journalists will parse quotes and photos for technical breadcrumbs, while the defense community debates what trade-offs designers are making behind closed doors. One of those trade-offs can be inferred from the photos circulating. The aircraft appears to feature a canard configuration. What is a canard configuration? In plain terms, canards are small wing-like control surfaces placed forward of the main wing. They act like tiny wings up front that help manage pitch and improve handling. Canards can increase maneuverability at high angles of attack, boost pitch authority, and enhance low-speed control for shorter takeoffs or carrier operations. Pilots often report that canard-equipped airplanes feel more responsive and nimble during tight maneuvers. But canards are a design trade-off. Any additional surface creates edges and intersections that can reflect radar and complicate efforts to minimize radar cross-section. Their presence would suggest designers are balancing stealth against agility, survivability, and mission flexibility. Modern engineering offers ways to blunt those stealth penalties: careful shaping, advanced radar-absorbing materials, internal weapons bays, or even deployable surfaces that extend only when mission conditions demand them. In other words, designers can chase both stealth and handling, but rarely without compromise. Right now, we have glimpses, rather than a full-spec sheet. Whether canards survive into production models, how sensors and weapons are arranged, and which propulsion systems are chosen remain open questions. What is already clear is how the F-47 is being framed as a major step forward. Expect intense scrutiny from engineers, pilots, and planners as new details appear, and watch how doctrine and procurement adapt. The F-47 could reshape tactics, basing, and mission planning for decades around the world. Redefining speed. The F-47 fighter jet is shaping up to be one of the fastest and most advanced aircraft of its generation. Early details suggest it will be able to fly at speeds exceeding Mach 2, which is more than 1,550 miles per hour, or about 2,500 kilometers per hour. To put that into perspective, that's more than twice the speed of sound and fast enough to cover the distance between Los Angeles and San Francisco in under 10 minutes. It's the kind of speed that doesn't just sound impressive, but completely changes what a fighter jet can do in combat. In modern warfare, speed is about more than just showing off numbers. It gives pilots critical advantages: the ability to close in on targets faster, escape from danger when outnumbered, and cover huge distances in less time. The F-47's ability to sustain such speeds means it will be able to operate more flexibly than the fighters it's meant to replace. A jet that flies faster than its rivals has the power to dictate the fight, forcing enemies to react rather than take the lead. Today's F-22 Raptor is already an impressive machine, capable of flying around Mach 2.25 at its top end. That alone makes it one of the fastest fighters in service. But the F-47 is expected to push even further. The goal isn't just to hit Mach 2 and stop there, but to sustain extreme speeds while still carrying out missions with greater range, stealth, and survivability. That combination makes it far more than just a quicker jet. It's designed to be a new benchmark in air dominance. Drones, missiles, and smart warfare. Sensors on the F-47 read like a checklist for situational dominance. The idea here is not just see better, it's share better. The plane's skin is envisioned as an active surface, sensor arrays embedded almost everywhere, a kind of smart skin that senses, scans, and talks. Add to that advanced ESA radars, big powerful arrays that can steer beams in an instant, and you get a bird that can hunt, fight, and act like a flying command post. The pilot won't be alone. They'll have a constant, layered picture of what's going on around them. Ground targets, ships, missiles, and other aircraft all show up as dots on a rich picture fed from multiple angles. In contested airspace where jammers and decoys try to confuse things, that redundancy matters. Think of the F-47 not as a lone fighter jet, but as the center of a small, fast-moving team. At its core is a manned aircraft built for stealth and speed, but it's the way that jet works with other systems, long-range missiles, precise bombs, and swarms of small drones, that really changes the game. The idea is simple. Let the pilot focus on big-picture choices, while machines extend the jet's senses, soak up danger, and deliver extra firepower when needed. First, the long-range missiles. These are the weapons meant for beyond-visual range fights, engagements that happen far beyond what a pilot can see out the cockpit. Instead of closing to eyeball range, the F-47 can launch advanced missiles that find and strike targets from very far away. That matters because distance equals safety. If you can remove an enemy threat before it gets close, you lower risk for the pilot and the whole force. Next are precision-guided munitions. These are the smart bombs and missiles that can hit specific targets with low collateral damage. When the situation calls for a surgical strike, a single radar site, a high-value vehicle, or a moving target, precision weapons let the F-47 do the job cleanly and quickly. Combine that with good sensors and you get effects on the ground or in the air that are accurate and timely. But the real multiplier is the Collaborative Combat Aircraft, or CCAs. These are smaller unmanned drones designed to work with the manned F-47 like loyal teammates. Picture a squadron in miniature. Some drones act as extra eyes, flying ahead or around the battlefield to feed the jet a steady stream of information. Others play the role of decoy, drawing an enemy's fire or spoofing their radar so the F-47 can slip by. Some CCAs carry weapons of their own, turning the system into a distributed fire network that can swarm a target or hit multiple threats at once. This setup gives commanders options. Need to scout a hostile airspace? Send out sensor CCAs first. Want to bait an enemy air defense system away from a high-value target? Use decoy CCAs to make the enemy reveal themselves. Want to hit several targets quickly? A mix of missiles from the F-47 and weapons from its CCAs can do that, often faster than a single jet could alone. Underpinning all of this is advanced sensor fusion and digital battle management. That's a fancy way of saying the jet collects data from many sources, its own radar, the CCAs, satellites, and other platforms, and blends it into a single clear picture. The pilot sees a simple, prioritized view of threats and options, instead of drowning in raw data. Software helps decide which drone should do what, where missiles should fly, and how to manage risks. The outcome is a new kind of air combat, more networked, more flexible, and less reliant on a single platform to do everything. The secret power plant. The Air Force is playing things close to the chest when it comes to the F-47's engine. but insiders suggest it could be powered by either General Electric's XA102 or Pratt & Whitney's XA103 adaptive cycle engine. Both options promise one thing: a leap forward in power, efficiency, and versatility. What makes these engines special is their adaptive cycle design. Unlike traditional engines, which are locked into a single configuration, adaptive engines can actually adjust the amount of air bypassing the core mid-flight. That means the F-47 can behave like two different aircraft depending on the situation. In high bypass mode, it flies more efficiently at subsonic speeds, perfect for covering long distances without guzzling fuel. Switch to low bypass mode, and it unleashes high thrust for supersonic speeds, giving the jet blistering performance when it needs to dominate in combat. Pratt & Whitney, in particular, has been leaning into advanced digital tools to speed up development of its XA103. Think of it as designing an engine in a virtual world before cutting a single piece of metal, saving time, money, and reducing mistakes. That level of precision could be a game-changer in bringing the F-47 into service faster than older programs ever managed. But raw speed and fuel savings aren't the only story here. These engines are also designed to generate extra electrical power, which is crucial for the next era of air combat. We're talking about supporting cutting-edge systems like combat lasers, advanced sensors, and thermal management tools that keep everything running smoothly, even under extreme conditions. In plain terms, the F-47's engine is built to be flexible. It's efficient enough to fly farther, powerful enough to outpace rivals, and smart enough to adapt to whatever mission it faces. Whether it's cruising quietly on patrol or pushing into high-speed dogfights, the F-47 will have the muscle and the brains to handle it all. The future of air combat. Think of NGAD not as a single shiny jet, but as a whole toolbox, a family of systems built to work together. The F-47 might be the star player, but its real power comes when it teams up with smaller, cheaper partners. That idea is central to how air combat is changing. Mix one high-end, highly survivable manned jet with lots of smart, expendable drones, and you get a force that's faster, tougher, and much harder to beat. Those smaller partners are called Collaborative Combat Aircraft, CCAs, or loyal wingmen. They're not simple remote-controlled toys. They're meant to be semi-autonomous aircraft with heavy doses of AI and machine learning. The pilot in the NGAD won't micromanage them. Instead, the NGAD and its human crew will task CCAs for jobs that are dull, dirty, or dangerous. Fly ahead to scout, jam enemy radars, soak up enemy fire, or carry extra weapons to punch deeper into defended space. In short, send the robots where you don't want to send people. What can a loyal wingman actually do? Picture a few concrete roles. First, scouting. A CCA can dart forward, use its sensors to map enemy positions, and relay that picture back to the NGAD. Second, electronic warfare. CCAS can carry jammers or emitters to blind or confuse enemy radars and communications. Third, weapons delivery. They can carry missiles or small munitions and launch them without risking a pilot's life. Some designs even plan for them to act as decoys or expendable sacrificial assets to draw fire. Those tasks free the manned jet to do the high-level decisions and the dangerous manned work that really needs a human in the loop. Cost is a huge part of the pitch. The Air Force has aimed for CCAs to be much cheaper than a manned fighter, roughly in the $20 to $40 million range per aircraft in many public estimates and studies. That's a fraction of the roughly $300 million per NGAD airframe that analysts discuss. The math matters. For the price of one NGAD, you could buy several CCAS, and those CCAS can multiply the reach and staying power of a single manned jet. In turn, that makes the whole force more resilient and, at least on paper, more affordable in bulk. The competition to build those CCAs is well underway. In April 2024, the Air Force narrowed the list and funded 2 companies to move forward with production representative prototypes, Anduril and General Atomics. Both firms are now tasked with turning designs into real test articles that can fly, fight, and be evaluated at scale. That move signals the Air Force wants working machines, not just concepts on paper. So how does the package operate in practice? Imagine a hunter-killer pack in the sky. A squadron launches a few NGADs with a swarm of CCAs. The CCAS fan out, using their sensors to find threats and jamming to blind defenses. The NGAD takes the role of commander. It fuses all sensor data, picks the priority targets, and directs the closest CCA to strike, while another CCA draws enemy fire. If a missile comes in, a CCA can try to intercept it or act as a distraction. The manned jet stays higher and safer, making the big choices and stepping in only when human judgment matters most. That mix multiplies what one pilot can do. It also changes risk calculation. You can tolerate losing CCAs in ways you never would in a manned jet. That, in turn, forces an opponent to think twice. Do you try to kill the pilot, or do you expend lots of expensive missiles and risk opening gaps? If the concept works as intended, NGAD plus CCAS is less about single aircraft heroics and more about coordinated swarm tactics that are flexible and hard to defeat. Race to the skies. This isn't a friendly tech contest. It's a tense, expensive race with real stakes. On one side, you have the United States pushing the NGAD family, a manned F-47-style leader backed by swarms of CCAs and satellites. On the other side sits China, closing gaps fast with new stealth designs and unmanned systems. Put bluntly, both sides want to control the airspace where future wars will be decided. Why does this matter beyond headlines? Because air dominance shapes everything else. If one side can see farther, strike first, and protect its forces, it forces the other side to react. That's deterrence in plain terms. Powerful capabilities make your rivals think twice before acting. US planners and wargamers have been blunt about it. Simulations show a sixth-generation capability can tilt outcomes in high-end fights and make it easier to win complex battles with peer rivals. That's why NGAD isn't just flashy tech. It's meant to be a stabilizer for allies and a clear signal to rivals. China's moves have been a big part of this calculation. The late 2024 sightings of new tailless Chinese prototypes, the larger shape many analysts call the J-36, grabbed attention around the world. The images and video weren't definitive proof of a finished weapon, but they were enough to show Beijing is testing advanced designs that could, over time, be paired with loyal wingmen and long-range missiles. That possibility pushed US planners to treat NGAD as urgent, not optional. Timelines now matter more than ever. The US is not just building a single plane, it's building a whole family of systems and the robots to go with it. The Collaborative Combat Aircraft Program, for example, moved forward in 2024 when the Air Force selected Anduril and General Atomics to build production representative prototypes. The goal is to have some CCA designs ready for production decisions in the mid-2020s, which would put fielded loyal wingmen and NGAD family elements on a potentially similar cadence to China's effort. That narrows the window for advantage. So the big question is twofold. Who gets a working, reliable 6th-gen force into service first? And who can iterate faster? Speed alone isn't enough. A rushed system that breaks, costs too much to sustain, or can't be integrated with allies is not useful. On the other hand, a slower but more robust program could win in the long run by being more affordable at scale and easier to upgrade. The winner will be the one that balances speed, quality, cost, and the ability to keep improving after the first jets fly. Allies are watching too. For US partners in the Indo-Pacific and beyond, NGAD and its networked force promise reassurance, a sign that the United States can still show up with advanced survivable capabilities if tensions rise. That reassurance matters in politics as much as in military planning. It keeps alliances intact, deters opportunistic aggression, and buys time for diplomacy to work. But if China fields comparable systems first, it could reshape calculations in capitals across the region. Why NGAD proved itself indispensable. Before the Pentagon decided to move full speed ahead with NGAD, it had to answer one blunt question. Is this fighter really worth it? After all, we're talking about a program with a price tag in the tens of billions. So the Air Force turned to one of its favorite tools, war simulations. These are highly detailed computer-driven games where military planners feed in all the tech, strategies, and likely enemy moves, then run the clock forward to see how battles play out. One of those simulations set the stage for a nightmare scenario, a future conflict in the Indo-Pacific, where US forces faced a rival with advanced stealth jets, long-range missiles, and dense air defenses. The rules were simple. Test two timelines. One where the US went into the fight with its current arsenal of F-22s, F-35s, and bombers, and another where NGAD and its loyal wingmen were added into the mix. The first run was sobering. Without NGAD, the US struggled badly to keep air superiority. Legacy fighters like the F-22 and F-35 performed well in certain areas, but lacked the range and stealth needed to stay ahead of swarms of enemy aircraft and missiles. Long-range bombers like the B-21 Raider could hit targets from afar, but they couldn't hold airspace or keep constant pressure on enemy forces. Step by step, the simulation showed US forces pushed back, struggling to protect bases, ships, and even supply lines. Simply put, America was on the defensive. Then came the second run, this time with NGAD in the picture. The results flipped. Suddenly, the US had a spearhead, a stealthy long-range fighter that could dive deep into contested airspace and survive. NGAD's advanced sensors gave commanders a clearer picture of the battlefield, while its ability to direct loyal wingmen multiplied firepower. Instead of just defending against waves of threats, US forces could now push forward, disrupt enemy plans, and strike critical targets faster than the rival could respond. Survivability rates skyrocketed, strike timelines shortened, and coordination between aircraft improved dramatically. Generals who reviewed the results didn't mince words. Without NGAD, the US risked losing its edge in any high-end fight. With NGAD, the balance shifted back toward American dominance. The conclusion was unanimous. NGAD wasn't just another fancy project, it was essential. Canceling it would have meant walking into the next big war with one arm tied behind America's back. Every one of these simulations assumed that Beijing's own next-generation jets, like the J-36, would be part of the equation. In that kind of matchup, the skies would decide the fight. Whoever controls the air can shield their forces, disrupt the enemies, and dictate the pace of battle. Whoever loses the skies is left exposed everywhere else. That's why NGAD proved itself not in theory, but in simulated wars where the stakes were laid bare. It wasn't about prestige or bragging rights. It was about survival in a world where the skies are the deciding battlefield. And in those tests, NGAD wasn't just helpful. It was the difference between holding the line and watching it collapse.